I found out about the Mercedes at a family dinner, the kind where everyone pretends nothing is wrong while every word feels like a test. My parents slid a set of keys across the table toward my sister, smiling like they'd just fulfilled some lifelong dream, and when I asked, half joking, what was going on, my mom said, "It's her reward. She's done so well." Then my dad turned to me, reached into his jacket, and handed me a small white envelope. Inside was a US $50 Costco gift card. $50. I laughed because I genuinely thought it was a joke, but no one laughed back. That was the moment something inside me cracked, and I want to know, honestly, was I wrong for feeling betrayed by my own parents, or would you have felt the same way if you were me? I need to explain how we got there, because from the outside it probably sounds like I'm just being ungrateful. I'm the older sibling. I've always been the responsible one, the one who followed rules, got good grades, didn't cause trouble. My sister, Lily, is 3 years younger than me. Growing up, she was charming, loud, emotional, and somehow always at the center of attention. Teachers adored her, relatives doted on her. And my parents, well, my parents always had a soft spot for her. I used to tell myself it was normal that younger siblings get more attention, that I didn't need as much because I was mature. That word followed me my entire life. You're so mature for your age. It sounded like a compliment. But what it really meant was, you don't need as much from us. When we were kids, it showed up in little ways. Lily would forget her homework, cry, and my mom would email the teacher, "I forgot my homework once," and my dad told me, actions have consequences. Lily wanted piano lessons, then quit after 3 months. My parents paid anyway and told her she'd find her passion eventually. I wanted to try art classes, and my parents asked me to think carefully because we don't want to waste money. Even then, I learned not to ask for much. I learned to make myself small so I wouldn't be a burden. In high school, the pattern continued. Lily struggled academically, but my parents hired tutors, counselors, even paid for summer programs to help her find direction. I did well, worked a part-time job, saved my own money, and got into a decent college with a partial scholarship. I remember telling my parents I'd been accepted, and my mom said, "That's great, honey," before immediately reminding Lily to study for her math test. I brushed it off. I told myself I didn't need their validation. I told myself independence was a strength, college was hard, but I made it work. I worked nights at a grocery store, took on extra shifts, lived with roommates to keep costs down. My parents contributed a little, but it was clear the bulk of financial support was reserved for Lily, who ended up going to a private college after my parents decided the environment would be better for her confidence. They paid her tuition in full. When I mentioned student loans once, my dad said, "You'll manage, you always do." And I did. I graduated with debt, yes, but also with pride. I thought, foolishly, that someday my parents would look back and see how much I'd handled on my own and appreciate it. After college, life moved fast. I got a job in my field, nothing glamorous but stable. I paid rent, chipped away at loans, built a life brick by brick. Lily bounced between majors, then between jobs. There was always a reason the workplace was toxic. The boss didn't understand her. She needed time to find herself. My parents supported her through all of it. She moved back home twice. They covered her car payments when she fell behind. I was quietly resentful, but I never said anything. I didn't want to seem jealous. I didn't want to be the bitter older sibling keeping score. Things really started to bother me when Lily turned 28. She announced at a family gathering that she'd finally landed a good job in marketing. Everyone cheered. My mom cried. My dad opened a bottle of wine. I was genuinely happy for her. I congratulated her, told her she deserved it. A few weeks later, my mom casually mentioned they were helping Lily upgrade her car so she can commute comfortably. I asked what that meant, and she said, "Oh, we're just looking at options." I assumed they meant a modest sedan or maybe a used SUV, something reasonable. Fast forward a couple of months to that dinner. The keys, the smiles, the Mercedes. It was brand new, glossy black, parked outside like a symbol of everything I'd never been given. My sister squealed, hugged my parents, cried about how supported she felt. I sat there, stunned. Then came the envelope. The Costco gift card. My mom said, "We thought you'd like this. You always shop there." I remember nodding, my face burning, my throat tight. I said thank you because that's what I've always done. I said thank you while something inside me screamed. On the drive home, I couldn't stop replaying it in my head. $80,000 for her. $50 for me. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a timing thing. Maybe they planned something else for me later. But deep down, I knew this wasn't a mistake. It was a pattern. A lifetime of being the afterthought, crystallized into one humiliating moment. That night, I called my best friend and told her everything. I laughed while telling the story, but my voice cracked anyway. She didn't laugh. She said, "That's not okay." Hearing someone else say it out loud felt like permission to feel what I'd been suppressing for years. Anger, sadness, grief for the relationship I thought I had with my parents. I didn't confront them right away. I needed time to think, to calm down, to make sure I wasn't overreacting. I kept asking myself if I was being entitled. After all, it was their money. They didn't owe me anything, right? But then I'd remember all the times I'd gone without, all the times I'd been told to be responsible, all the times I'd been praised for not needing help. Wasn't that worth something? A week later, my mom called me, cheerful as ever, asking if I'd used the gift card yet. Something in me snapped. I told her no, and then, very calmly, I asked why they thought it was appropriate to spend so much on Lily and give me so little. There was a long pause. My mom sighed and said, "We didn't mean to hurt you. Lily just needed it more." That sentence hit me harder than I expected. Needed it more. As if my needs have never counted. I told her I wasn't talking about the money, not really. I was talking about fairness, about feeling valued. She got defensive. She said I was being dramatic, that I should be happy for my sister, that comparing gifts was childish. When I mentioned the Mercedes specifically, she said, "It's not a competition." But it felt like one I'd been losing my whole life. My dad joined the conversation later, and his response was worse. He told me, "You're independent. That's a good thing. Lily needs more support." I asked him if independence meant I deserved less love. He didn't answer that. He just said I was taking it the wrong way. After that call, I cried harder than I had in years. Not loud sobs, just quiet, exhausted tears. I realized I wasn't just upset about the car. I was mourning the idea that someday things would even out. That my parents would see me and choose me the way they always chose Lily. That hope died with that $50 gift card. Over the next few weeks, things got tense. I stopped calling as much. When I did talk to my parents, everything felt superficial. Lily texted me excitedly about her car, sent me pictures of the interior, joked about how fancy it felt. I responded politely, but every message felt like salt in a wound. She didn't understand why I was distant, or maybe she did and didn't want to acknowledge it. I started thinking about my future in a different way. I'd always assumed my parents would be there in some capacity, that we were a family even if things weren't perfect. Now I wasn't so sure. I started setting boundaries in small ways. I said no to visits. I skipped a couple of family dinners. Each time, my mom acted confused, like she couldn't understand why I was pulling away. Here's where things really began to change. And this is the part that still makes my hands shake when I think about it. A month after the Mercedes incident, my parents invited me over to talk things through. They said they wanted to clear the air. I went, hopeful and terrified. I thought maybe this was it. Maybe they'd finally listen. Maybe they'd acknowledge the imbalance and try to fix it. We sat in the living room, the same one where I'd grown up, surrounded by memories that suddenly felt foreign. My mom started by saying they loved me and that they were proud of me. I wanted to believe her. Then she said, "But you have to understand, we're planning for the future." I asked what she meant. My dad cleared his throat and said they were updating their estate plans. That got my attention fast. They explained, very matter-of-factly, that since Lily had struggled more in life, they planned to leave her a larger portion of their assets to make things fair. Fair. That word again. According to them, fairness meant compensating for her difficulties, even if it meant I got less. Significantly less. They said I was strong, capable, self-sufficient. They said Lily needed security. I felt like the floor dropped out from under me. This wasn't just about a car anymore. This was about my entire place in the family. I asked them if they realized how that sounded, how it felt like I was being punished for doing well. My mom started crying. My dad said, "We're not punishing you. We're just being realistic." That conversation ended badly. Voices were raised. Old grievances spilled out. I told them how overlooked I'd felt my whole life. They told me I was rewriting history. I left shaking, heart pounding, knowing something fundamental had broken. So that's the situation I was in. Years of quiet resentment, one explosive gift, and now the realization that this dynamic wasn't going to change on its own. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and really think about it. If you were me, would you speak up louder, risk blowing up your family, or would you swallow it like I always had? What would you have done in my shoes? Because the decision I made after that conversation changed everything, and it's something my family still hasn't forgiven me for. After I walked out of my parents' house that night, I sat in my car for nearly an hour with the engine off, staring at the steering wheel like it had personally betrayed me. My chest felt tight, my hands were shaking, and I kept replaying my dad's words in my head. "We're just being realistic." It was amazing how calmly someone could explain away a lifetime of imbalance. That drive home was the first time I seriously considered the idea that maybe distance wasn't just an emotional reaction. Maybe it was necessary for my own sanity. For the next few weeks, I went mostly silent. I didn't call. I didn't text. When my mom sent me random messages like, "Saw this and thought of you," with a picture of something from Costco, I left them on read. Lily noticed too. She finally called me one evening, her voice cautious in a way I wasn't used to. She asked why I was being so cold. I told her I needed space. She said, "Is this about the car?" and laughed nervously, like it was silly to even ask. That laugh did something to me. I told her yes, it was about the car, but it was also about everything else. There was a long pause, and then she said something I'll never forget. She said, "I didn't ask for it, you know. They just wanted to help me. It's not my fault you don't need help." That sentence felt like a knife wrapped in silk. Not my fault you don't need help. As if neediness was some kind of currency, and I'd foolishly chosen not to collect it. I told her it wasn't about blame, that it was about how invisible I felt. She got defensive immediately. She said I was attacking her for things she couldn't control. By the end of the call, we were both angry, both hurt, and nothing was resolved. That was the moment I realized this wasn't just a parent problem anymore. It was a family problem. I tried to go back to my normal routine. Work, gym, groceries, sleep. But everything felt off. I couldn't focus. I was snapping at coworkers, zoning out in meetings. At night, I'd lie awake thinking about my childhood, replaying memories with a new lens. All the small things suddenly felt huge. The time Lily totaled her car and my parents replaced it within a month. The time I needed help with a security deposit and was told to figure it out. I wasn't imagining it. It had always been this way. About 2 months after the Mercedes dinner, my parents asked to see me again. They said they hated the distance. That family shouldn't be like this. I almost said no, but a part of me still wanted closure, still wanted to believe we could fix it. So I agreed, but this time I went in prepared. I wrote down what I wanted to say. I promised myself I wouldn't minimize my feelings to keep the peace. We met at a cafe instead of their house, neutral territory. My mom reached for my hand across the table, and for a second I almost cried. She said she missed me. I told her I missed them too. But that missing someone didn't erase the problem. I explained, calmly but firmly, that the issue wasn't the money itself. It was the message behind it. That my worth seemed directly tied to how much I struggled, and because I didn't struggle outwardly, I got less love, less support, less consideration. My dad listened quietly, arms crossed. When I finished, he said, "We never meant for you to feel that way." I told him intent didn't erase impact. I told them about the estate plan conversation and how deeply it hurt me. My mom started crying again. She said they were just trying to do what was best for everyone. I asked them a simple question. Can you see why this feels unfair? There was another pause, another heavy silence. My dad finally said, "Life isn't always equal." That's when I realized we were speaking different languages. To me, fairness meant being seen, being valued. To them, fairness meant distributing resources based on perceived weakness. And I was never going to win that argument because I was too strong. I took a deep breath and told them what I'd decided. I said I needed to step back from the relationship for a while, not forever, but long enough to heal and figure out what boundaries I needed. My mom looked shocked. My dad looked angry. He said I was being extreme. I said I was being honest. I told them I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine while quietly resenting them. I said space was better than bitterness. They didn't take it well. My mom accused me of abandoning the family. My dad said I was punishing them. I told them this wasn't about punishment, it was about self-respect. I paid for my coffee, stood up, and walked out. This time, I didn't sit in my car afterward. I drove away immediately, heart racing, but also feeling strangely lighter. The next few months were quiet, painfully quiet at times. Holidays were awkward. I spent Thanksgiving with friends. Christmas was just me, a takeout meal and a movie. My parents sent gifts anyway, expensive ones. It felt ironic, almost insulting. I returned them unopened. That caused another wave of angry messages, mostly from my dad, telling me I was being dramatic and ungrateful. I didn't respond. Lily tried to mediate. She told me our parents were hurting, that they didn't understand why I was doing this. I told her they didn't have to understand, they just had to respect it. She said I was tearing the family apart. That hurt more than I expected. I asked her if she'd ever torn herself apart trying to keep it together. She didn't answer. Around this time, something unexpected happened. Without my family constantly in my ear, I started to feel better. Not happy, exactly, but calmer. I went to therapy. I talked about my childhood, my role as the easy kid, the invisible one. My therapist helped me see how much emotional labor I'd been doing my whole life, managing everyone else's feelings at the expense of my own. She helped me understand that being self-sufficient didn't mean I didn't deserve care. Then came the twist I never saw coming. About 6 months after I went low contact, my parents called me in a panic. I almost didn't answer, but something told me I should. My mom was crying so hard I could barely understand her. Lily had quit her job, again. Not only that, she'd been in an accident, not a major one, but enough to damage the Mercedes. Insurance didn't cover everything because of some issue with her policy. Suddenly, money was tight. The tone of the call was different. Desperate. My dad asked if I could help Lily out financially, just temporarily. I actually laughed, a short, bitter sound I couldn't stop. I asked him if he was serious. He said family helps family. I reminded him that I was the independent one, the one who didn't need help. There was silence on the line. Then my mom said, "We thought you might be in a position to assist." Assist. After everything, I told them no, calmly, clearly, without yelling. I said I loved them, but I wasn't going to be their safety net when I'd never been theirs. My dad got angry. He said I was selfish. I said I was consistent. I hung up shaking, but proud. For the first time in my life, I chose myself without apology. The fallout was immediate. Extended family got involved. Aunts, uncles, cousins, all with opinions. Some said I was right to set boundaries. Others said I was cruel for turning my back when Lily needed me. Lily herself sent me a long message accusing me of being vindictive, of enjoying her struggle. That hurt, because it wasn't true. I didn't want her to suffer. I just didn't want to sacrifice myself anymore. Weeks passed, then months. Slowly, things shifted. My parents stopped asking for money. the anger cooled into something quieter, heavier. Eventually, my mom asked if we could talk again, just the two of us. I agreed, cautiously. We met at the same cafe. This time she looked tired, older. She told me she'd been thinking a lot about what I'd said, about how she and my dad had leaned on me being easy. Instead of actually supporting me, she admitted they'd taken my strength for granted. It wasn't a full apology, but it was the closest I'd ever gotten. I told her I appreciated the honesty, but that rebuilding trust would take time. The estate plan came up again. This time, she said they were reconsidering it. Not because of pressure, but because they realized how their definition of fairness had hurt me. I didn't jump for joy. I told her money wasn't going to fix what was broken. Only consistent change would. As for Lily, our relationship is complicated. We talk occasionally. There's still tension, still unspoken resentment on both sides. She eventually got another job. The Mercedes was repaired and sold. She bought something more modest. I don't know if that experience changed her perspective, but I know it changed mine. It's been over a year now since that dinner with the keys and the gift card. When I think about it, I don't feel that same sharp pain anymore. I feel clarity. I learned that being the strong one often means being the overlooked one, and that if you don't speak up, people will happily accept your silence as consent. So was I wrong? Was I wrong for pulling away, for saying no, for refusing to play my assigned role anymore? Honestly, I don't think so. I didn't burn bridges. I stopped setting myself on fire to keep everyone else warm. And if that makes me the villain in someone else's story, I can live with that. If you were on my side, hit like. If you think I went too far, tell me why. Subscribe for more stories like this, because trust me, life is full of these messy, complicated moments. And share your final thoughts on this whole situation in the comments. I read them all. I'll see you in the next story.